We all grow up with stories about love. From fairy tales to movies, songs to social media quotes, we are taught that love is the answer, the goal, the thing that will complete us, fix us, save us. But what if that's the biggest lie of all? What if love, the way we've been conditioned to see it, isn't saving us, but actually keeping us trapped? Because here's the truth most people don't want to admit. Much of what we call love is actually fear in disguise. Fear of being alone, fear of not being enough, fear of not mattering unless someone chooses us, so we chase love. We crave it. We build our identity around being wanted, being needed, being loved. But what we often end up finding isn't love at all. It's attachment. It's dependency. It's a desperate attempt to soothe an inner wound we've never truly acknowledged. And the lie? That someone else will heal it for us. We believe that when we find the right person, everything will make sense. We'll feel whole. We'll finally be enough. But the truth is, no one can do that for you. No one can fix the parts of you that you've abandoned. No one can make you feel worthy if you don't believe it yourself. And so we enter relationships hoping to be saved, and end up disappointed when the high fades, when the other person doesn't meet every need, when reality sets in. Carl Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." But here's the catch. You can't transform from a place of emptiness. If you enter love looking to be filled, you'll constantly fear being left. If you base your worth on how someone else sees you, you'll never feel stable. That's not love, that's survival. And survival mode love is not sustainable. It burns hot and fast. It feels urgent and addictive, but it's rarely grounded in truth. Real love doesn't demand you lose yourself. It doesn't ask you to shrink. It doesn't make you question your value. In fact, real love requires that you already know your value. And that's why this conversation is uncomfortable. Because to truly love and be loved, you must confront the lie that you are incomplete without someone else. You're not. Yes, love can be beautiful, transformative, sacred, but only when it's chosen, not chased. Only when it's shared between two people who are whole on their own. In the next part, we'll explore how this lie takes root, and how your earliest experiences with love shape every relationship you've ever had. The biggest lie about love doesn't come from movies. It doesn't come from romantic novels or viral TikToks. It begins much earlier, long before you even knew what love was. It begins in childhood. Before you could speak, before you could think in words, you were already learning what love meant. Not through lessons, but through experience. Maybe you had to be quiet to be accepted. Maybe you had to earn affection by being good. Maybe you saw love withdrawn when you expressed anger, sadness, or fear. And so your nervous system learned something very simple, but very powerful. Love is not unconditional. It must be earned. It must be kept. It can be lost at any moment. From there, a belief is born. If I want to be loved, I must become what others need me to be. This belief buries itself deep. So deep that even as adults, we don't realize we're still acting it out. We bend. We accommodate. We become experts at reading the room, anticipating needs, and giving more than we have, all in the hope that we won't be abandoned. This isn't love, it's performance. It's survival. Carl Jung called this the persona, the mask we wear to be accepted in society. But the problem is, when you wear the mask long enough, you forget it's not your face. You start believing that you are only lovable when you're useful, when you're easy to be around, when you're not too much. And so even in romantic relationships, this belief plays out. You don't ask for what you need because you don't want to seem needy. You accept behavior that hurts because you don't want to be alone. You confuse attention with love because deep down, you're still that child, trying to be chosen. But here's the truth no one told you. Love that must be earned isn't love. It's approval, it's validation, it's conditional acceptance, wrapped in the language of affection. You don't need to shrink yourself to be worthy of love. You don't need to be agreeable to be wanted. You don't need to be perfect to be held. The lie says, if I'm good enough, I won't be left. But the truth is, if someone only stays because you hide parts of yourself, they were never really with you in the first place. Healing this means returning to the core wound. It means acknowledging that the way you were loved, or not loved, shaped your patterns. and it means grieving the fact that maybe you never really got to be fully you in love. That grief is sacred, because from it, a new kind of love can emerge, one that's based not on fear, but on freedom. In the next part, we'll look at what happens when you start to reclaim your boundaries, and how love changes when you no longer need it to complete you. What happens when you stop chasing love? At first, it's terrifying. You've been conditioned to believe that being wanted is everything, that your worth is tied to how desirable, helpful, or pleasing you are to someone else. So when you begin to step back, to stop performing, to stop giving beyond your capacity, it feels like rejection. It feels like you're letting people down. It feels like failure, but it's not failure. It's the beginning of freedom. Carl Jung taught that we cannot become whole unless we integrate the parts of ourselves we've disowned. And one of the first parts many of us exile, our right to say no. No to relationships that drain us, no to dynamics that demand self-erasure, no to love that feels more like endurance than connection. This is where boundaries come in, not as walls to keep people out, but as doors that show others how to meet you with respect. Because here's the truth, real love does not require your self-abandonment. It doesn't ask you to silence your needs. It doesn't punish you for saying what's true. It doesn't vanish when you set a line. But the lie we carry, the one we've believed for years, tells us otherwise. It says, if I say what I really feel, they'll leave. If I ask for space, they'll pull away. If I stop giving, I'll lose them. So you stay quiet. You smile. You say yes when your soul is screaming no. And you wonder why you feel so alone, even when you're not physically alone. Here's the paradox. The moment you stop proving your worth, you begin to see who really values you. When you no longer rush to fix things, cover discomfort, or please endlessly, the people around you reveal themselves. Some will withdraw. Some will resent your new clarity. Some will try to guilt you back into old roles. But others, they will rise to meet you. They will listen. They will honor your truth. They will love you, not because you serve them, but because you are you. And this is how love transforms. It stops being a currency. It becomes a collaboration. It becomes something shared, not something negotiated. But to reach that kind of love, you must first face the discomfort of change. You must sit in the silence after you say no. You must resist the urge to apologize for having needs. You must choose yourself, even when your conditioning tells you not to. This is the work. Not the flashy declarations, not the dramatic reunions, but the daily, quiet, internal decision to love from a place of integrity. As Jung might say, this is individuation in action, becoming the full, whole version of yourself, not for others, but for you. And from that place, you don't beg for love. You receive it. You create it. You choose it. Freely. In the next part, we'll explore how to heal the confusion between emotional intensity and genuine intimacy, and why the love that feels calm might actually be the deepest kind of all. Have you ever confused chaos with love? It's more common than we think. The butterflies in your stomach, the text that doesn't come, the drama that keeps you hooked, the push and pull, the longing, the uncertainty. We call it passion. We call it chemistry. We romanticize it. But in truth, for many of us, emotional intensity has become a stand-in for connection. If it's not turbulent, we think it's boring. If it's calm, we think it lacks depth. If it's predictable, we assume it's not real. But ask yourself, where did you learn that love should feel like a storm? Maybe it was from the chaos of early relationships, where love and safety weren't always present at the same time. Maybe it was from a parent whose attention came in unpredictable waves. Maybe it was from heartbreaks that left scars deeper than you realized. Carl Jung believed that what we don't make conscious, we act out as fate. So if you've learned that love equals instability, you'll be drawn to people who bring that very instability into your life. Not because you want pain, but because it's familiar. And here lies the trap. When someone comes along who offers peace, you might mistake it for disinterest. When they communicate clearly, you might feel suspicious. When they don't trigger your nervous system, you might say, I'm just not feeling the spark. But maybe the spark isn't love. Maybe it's anxiety. Maybe it's your body warning you, not welcoming them. Real love often feels quiet. It feels steady, grounded, secure. It's not adrenaline, it's presence. It doesn't leave you wondering. It offers clarity. But that kind of love requires something we're not used to: safety. And safety can feel foreign when you've spent a lifetime in emotional survival. So how do you shift? First, by realizing that safety is not the enemy of passion. A calm relationship can still be thrilling, but the thrill comes from shared growth, not emotional unpredictability. Second, by learning to regulate your own nervous system. Notice when you confuse peace with boredom. Notice when your body craves drama. And ask yourself what it's actually seeking. Often it's not love, it's stimulation, it's validation. It's an echo of an old emotional loop that was never closed. This is why healing is essential before partnership, because otherwise you'll reject the very thing you say you want: a relationship that doesn't hurt, a love that builds instead of burns. And here's the miracle. Once you begin to normalize emotional safety, your definition of love changes. You no longer need the chase to feel alive. You no longer mistake absence for desire. You begin to feel safe, even in stillness. And from that stillness, a deeper intimacy is born. One where you're seen without having to perform. One where your silence is as valued as your words. One where you're not consumed, you're chosen. Carl Jung would say this is the integration of the shadow, learning to love the parts of you that believed love had to hurt. And through that, you open the door to a love that heals instead of haunts. If you want to change how you experience love, you have to start with one question: how do you love yourself? Not in the cliché way, not in the take a bath and light a candle kind of way, but in the real, raw, uncomfortable kind of way. The kind where you hold yourself accountable, speak kindly to your own pain, and stop abandoning yourself to be accepted. Because here's what's true: you will only ever tolerate the kind of love you believe you deserve. If deep down you believe you're not enough, you'll chase people who confirm that. If you believe your value comes from how much you give, you'll attract those who only know how to take. If you believe love is earned through suffering, you'll stay in places where pain is the price of being seen. Carl Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." So many of us walk through life with inherited stories about love, passed down through generations, shaped by childhood, reinforced by culture. And we think, this is just how love is. But that's not true. That's just how love has been for you. The difference is huge. Because once you realize that your patterns are not your destiny, you reclaim power. You stop blaming others for not loving you right. And you begin to ask, how have I allowed my own wounds to define what I accept? This is not self-blame. This is self-responsibility. The difference? Blame keeps you stuck. Responsibility sets you free. It allows you to ask hard questions with compassion. Why do I feel uncomfortable when someone treats me well? Why do I pursue love that's hot and cold? Why do I overextend myself in every relationship? And beneath all those answers, you'll often find the same thing: a belief that love is something you have to work for, not something you already deserve. But let's challenge that. What if love isn't earned? What if it's recognized? What if the right person doesn't need you to do more, but to simply be more of yourself? You don't have to prove your worth to the right people. You don't have to perform your pain to be seen. You don't have to sacrifice your boundaries to keep someone close. The moment you begin to treat yourself like you matter, you raise your standards without even trying. You stop reaching for crumbs. You start expecting depth. You no longer chase. You attract. Because people can feel how you value yourself, and the ones who are ready for real love will rise to meet that. You begin to move differently. You communicate more clearly. You take your time. You listen to your intuition instead of your insecurity. This isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming real. And in that authenticity, you create a new blueprint for love. One where your inner world sets the tone for what you allow on the outside. The biggest lie about love isn't just that it has to be earned. It's that love comes from someone else. But the deepest truth is this: love begins with you. We spend years, sometimes lifetimes, searching for a person to make us feel whole, to fix what we never got, to fill the silence we've avoided, to heal what others broke. But no one can do that for you. Not really. Because the wound isn't in the present. It lives in the past. And unless you meet that wound yourself, love will always feel like longing. Carl Jung believed that wholeness is the goal of life, not perfection. And wholeness comes when we embrace every part of who we are. Not just the lovable parts, but the insecure ones, the broken ones, the angry ones, the ones who are still waiting to be chosen. Here's the shift. You don't have to wait to be chosen. you can choose yourself. When you do, everything changes. You stop waiting for the text. You stop begging for clarity. You stop twisting yourself into someone else's version of enough. And instead you ask, what do I really want? What does love feel like in my body, not just in my fantasies? Am I giving myself what I'm asking others to give me? Because here's the secret no one talks about. You teach others how to love you by how you love yourself. Not by being demanding, not by being distant, but by being clear, consistent, kind, honest. When you stop betraying yourself, you stop attracting relationships that reflect that betrayal. When you start honoring your time, your energy, your boundaries, you naturally draw in people who do the same. And when you show up as your full self, not edited, not filtered, not masked, you create the possibility for real intimacy. Because true love doesn't ask you to become smaller. It invites you to expand. And it doesn't come when you're finally perfect. It comes when you're finally real. Let go of the lie. Let go of the myth that love is something you must earn, prove, suffer for, or chase. Instead, live from this place. I am already worthy. I am already enough. I am already love. From that foundation, relationships stop being a need and start being a choice. You no longer grip out of fear. You no longer settle out of loneliness. You connect because you want to, not because you're afraid to be alone. And that is the most powerful love there is. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." That's what love is meant to do, not to complete you, but to reflect you back to yourself, to walk beside you as you return home to who you've always been. And when you love from that place, you'll never again mistake intensity for intimacy, or silence for safety, or attention for connection, because you'll know, you'll feel it, you'll trust it, and most of all, you'll trust you.